Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're really getting into something complex, the impact of what our sources call the 12-day war, and how it's just profoundly reshaped the Iranian regime. We're talking domestically, regionally, internationally, the whole picture.
It's fascinating because, you remember, Khomeini called war a divine grace for the regime.
Right, but this time, it seems, well, deeply destabilizing for them, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And for this deep dive, a key source we're drawing on is an interview with Mr. Aziz Paknejad. He's with the National Council of Resistance.
Okay, so that gives us a specific viewpoint.
It does, a critical perspective, really, offering a unique lens into the challenges the regime is facing, specifically from an opposition standpoint. We'll be sort of dissecting how his analysis frames this conflict as pivotal.
Pivotal, leading to these cascading effects we're seeing right now.
Precisely. The ripple effects are still playing out.
Okay, let's unpack this then. How one conflict can just fundamentally alter a regime's entire strategic playbook. Where do we even start with how the regime used war before this?
Well, historically, the Iranian regime has leaned heavily on warmongering, hasn't it?
Oh, absolutely. War and aggression, they've been central to its survival strategy for decades.
Used to expand influence, intimidate rivals.
And crucially, to suppress its own people, often using proxies, cultivated directly by Khamenei.
Right. And that strategy worked for quite a while.
It did, largely because they controlled the initiative, as the analysis puts it. They decided when and where conflict started.
Ah, so they were driving the agenda.
Exactly. It let them project power, force the world to sort of accept their role, often helped by what's described as imamashad, or appeasement policy.
Appeasement, okay. So that was the pattern. Then comes this 12-day war. How did this conflict break that mold? What was different?
Well, Mr. Paknejad's analysis points to the regime's aid to Hamas as a huge miscalculation.
A miscalculation?
Yes.
Based on what? Based on this illusion of invincibility they'd built up. This time, they weren't the ones starting it and controlling the fallout. They found themselves on the receiving end of a major military reaction.
Ah, so the dynamic flipped.
It completely flipped. It was a massive reversal. What's fascinating here is that the tables have just completely turned on them.
So when the tables turn like that,
yeah,
what are the immediate visible consequences? What does that look like for their strategic position?
The source material suggests it's been severe. The regime is now, quote, constantly receiving destructive blows.
Destructive blows, losing ground.
Yes, losing their war capital, that advantage they held, and even a past pride. It's facing more destructive forces and basically has nothing left to offer on the battlefield, according to this analysis.
Wow. Okay, so that's the external picture. But it sounds like this isn't just about external power dynamics. How did this hit them at home? What about their internal legitimacy?
Yeah, the analysis we've looked at is pretty blunt about this. It says the war led to a complete political, social, and even internal legitimacy bankruptcy.
Complete bankruptcy. That's strong language.
It is. The assessment says it has lost all of these entirely. We've seen them try, desperate appeals to nationalism, making empty threats to ease external pressure.
But it's not working.
Apparently, without success, no.
And what about the infighting? We hear about these factional disputes within the regime. Are those connected to this war? A direct ripple effect.
The source suggests they absolutely are. These internal conflicts are described as a natural consequence of this devastating and still ongoing war.
How so? What's the mechanism there?
Well, the loss of key Revolutionary Guard leaders and commanders has apparently created significant internal dissatisfaction.
Ah, okay. So it's in the core.
Exactly. And that's seen as more destructive than tactical defeats on a battlefield because it essentially disarms the regime against its own people, against potential uprisings.
So with that kind of internal rot setting in, losing key figures, how are they trying to keep control? What tactics are they using now?
Mr. Paknejad's insights mention these Atashbi Ekhtiyar forces that translates to fire at will.
Fire at will. Sounds ominous.
It is. Khamenei organized them. They're loosely structured, operating in cities to suppress protests, sometimes even without direct orders.
And what motivates them?
Crucially, the analysis points to special material and personal motivations. They benefit from the looting and plunder of the Iranian economy.
Ah, so they have a vested interest in maintaining the system that allows that, ensures loyalty.
Precisely. Loyalty in suppressing the population.
Which might explain the current wave of arrests and executions we're seeing. Why the intensity now?
The assessment suggests these measures, executions, widespread arrests, often using flimsy espionage pretexts, even against Afghans.
Right.
They serve as a clear projection. It's about diverting public attention away from the war losses and the simmering potential for popular uprisings.
Try and change the subject, control the narrative.
Exactly, which really makes you ask, why are they so desperate to control that narrative right now?
Okay, so internal dynamics are one thing, but they're playing out against serious external pressure. Let's talk about the EU's trigger mechanism. What are the implications there?
Yeah, this is significant. The interview confirms France's foreign minister publicly said it would be activated by late August if nuclear talks fail.
And that's credible. Europe has sometimes been hesitant.
True, but the analysis highlights very close coordination between the U.S. and Europe on this. That coordination is seen as crucial for Europe to actually take this step, despite past delays in punishing the regime.
Now, the regime often uses hostage-taking, grabbing European citizens, as leverage. Will that work now? Can they counter this pressure that way?
The assessment from Mr. Paknejad is that this tactic is much less effective today.
Less effective? Why?
Because European countries are now apparently actively fighting the regime's terrorism on their own soil.
How so?
Arresting agents, prosecuting them, closing down front organizations. There are examples cited from Germany, the Netherlands, Sweden, the UK, France.
So they're pushing back direct.
Yes. And significantly, when the trigger mechanism threat was announced, it came alongside new sanctions against 7 individuals and entities involved in terrorism in Europe. That signals they're serious this time.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting then. If they do activate this trigger mechanism, what happens? What are the concrete consequences?
It means the reinstatement of UN Security Council sanctions, the ones that were suspended about 10 years ago.
And the effect?
It would, quote, truly drown the regime in crises, political, economic, technical, technological. It's a massive blow.
Can you give some specifics, like what would actually change?
Okay, so reduced oil sales because banking and insurance sanctions snap back. Disrupted economic ties across the board, even potential seizure of Iranian cargo ships.
Wow.
Plus, severe limits on their arms sales, like those drones going to Russia, and limits on buying components for their missiles and drones.
So it hits their military capabilities and their income.
And it also negatively impacts countries like Russia and China, who currently benefit from helping Iran get around existing sanctions. It complicates things for them, too.
Despite all this pressure, the regime keeps making threats, right? About its nuclear program, about targeting officials. Are those just bluster, or is there real teeth to them now?
The analysis we're looking at describes these as acts of desperation. Power gestures, basically, that deceive no one.
So other countries don't buy it?
The assessment is that external parties understand the regime won't actually commit suicide. And look, military strikes have happened against the regime even while negotiations were supposedly ongoing.
Good point. Actions speak louder than threats.
Exactly. It suggests the threats aren't being taken that seriously as a deterrent.
What about Donald Trump? He recently said he's in no hurry to negotiate with Iran. What's the strategic impact of that statement?
According to this analysis, that's seen as very dangerous for the regime.
Dangerous.
Because it pushes the regime to act, to try and avoid further attacks or pressure, rather than letting them play for time. It gives foreign powers the upper hand in any future talks.
So it removes their ability to just drag things out.
Precisely. It backs them into a corner, potentially forcing their hands sooner rather than later.
Okay, so we have this picture of deep internal pressure, mounting external pressure. Where does this leave the possibility of a popular uprising inside Iran? And what's the role of organized resistance in all this?
Well, as the analysis points out, dictatorial regimes usually tighten internal controls during wartime. They try to keep a lid on any dissatisfaction.
Makes sense. Prevent internal weaknesses from showing.
Right. And the Iranian regime is using that Atashbi XTR system we talked about for heightened repression. The view here is that this repression will continue as long as this regime exists.
So in that incredibly repressive environment, how does an overthrow movement like the resistance units linked to the PMONMEC even operate? What's their strategy?
The analysis stresses it requires wisdom and precise calculation. They have to protect themselves from this severe repression while also adapting their actions to the changing situation.
It sounds incredibly difficult.
It is. A key goal mentioned is maintaining the potential for popular uprising, even amidst the conflict and repression, keeping that flame alive, so to speak.
And what about the balance between encouraging an internal uprising versus, say, external intervention. That's always a tricky line to walk.
Very tricky. Mr. Paknejad articulates a critical dual goal here. First, inciting an independent popular uprising to actually overthrow the regime from within.
Okay, internal change driven by Iranians.
Yes. But simultaneously, the goal is preventing foreign domination of the country and avoiding the negative consequences we've seen elsewhere.
You mean like the chaos or instability seen in places like Iraq, Afghanistan, Libya after interventions?
Exactly. Avoiding those outcomes is framed as a crucial part of the strategy.
So in that incredibly complex picture, preventing chaos, ensuring genuine internal change, what role does the organized Iranian resistance play as a potential guarantor for the future?
The material we're looking at affirms that the Iranian resistance, citing its centralized leadership, its network of resistance units, its cohesive organization, and its international credibility, serves as a strong guarantee.
A guarantee against what?
A guarantee for a future free, prosperous, and independent Iran. Essentially a force capable of preventing foreign manipulation on one side and internal chaos or fragmentation on the other after the regime falls.
Okay, so wrapping this up, our deep dive today, based heavily on Mr. Paknejad's analysis, really shows how this 12-day war has just ripped open the vulnerabilities of the Iranian regime.
Yeah, we've seen its core strategy of warmongering backfire, its internal legitimacy crumble, deep factional splits emerge.
And its old tactics, like threats and hostage-taking, becoming less and less effective against coordinated international pressure and internal dissent.
It really raises a fundamental question, doesn't it? If a regime's main strategy turns against itself, and its control mechanisms are fracturing under the weight of its own people's demands, what actually defines its power anymore? And, how long can it really cling on?
Fascinating question indeed. Something for you to ponder as we continue these deep dives into the forces shaping our world.
Thanks for joining us.
میپوشه جین روشنشو با یه درس آبی میبنده کمربندشو میکنه تو دن و بیت پلی نداره هیچ مدل مشکلاتی داره قرار با رفیقش صرف کوکی کافی نزدیکای کافه میبینه تو راش یه گله چیریکی پوش یه گله اوباش پاپیچه یه دخترن گیره به موهاش پوتینا لگه تو روناش یه مش توی گیسوهاش میزنه رو ترمز نفسش میاد جوش صف میبندن جوونا شهر میشه یه آشوب میگیره رفیقی که بچگیاشون اسمش سیف بوده رو گوشی رپر خیابون میرسه بهش سه سوت با یه تک زنگ پای ترینش رفاقت تنگ موج اعتراض جلوی گاز سنگ و داستان قدیمی و باز بنگ روزا میگذرن میشن شلوغ‌تر خیابونا دستای خالی مشت میشن علیه قانونا روبرو عشاق خون فستیوال زالوها جشن اشکاور و خردل و رقص باتونا میکنن فیلترم راه ها رو ارتباط قطع خیابون سنگرمونه میمونیم استقامت میگردن چشما تو دودا دنبال عدالت میکشن لاتای حکومت شاتگان و کلاش و توپ و تانک و شلیک گلوله ها و خون و خاک افتادن جوونه ها یگان موتور خفگیرا تو کوچه ها و سایه اطلاعات رو دیوارای خونه ها و توپ و تانک و شلیک گلوله ها و خون و خاک افتادن جوونه ها یگان موتور خفگیرا تو کوچه ها و سایه اطلاعات رو دیوارای خونه ها یه پدر داغه به سینه‌شو به مچاش زنجیر اتهامش تبلیغ برگزاری تدفین لباس شخصی ها از آرامگاه تا توی گوشی ها پی عزادارا و مدام تفتیش مادری دنبال گم شدش اشکای ریزت چشش نشه بچش گروگان اونا نمیدن بهش باید امضا میکرد اتفاقی مرده پاره تنش دستش میرفت روی برگ ولی نمیرفت دلش همه جا بوی بارود شاهد بدون تابوت یه طرف نور گشتی ها یه جا فانوس جاسوس روزا خطر کمین تو شهر شب و تو خونه هامون مجری و مجرمن همه اینجا دروغ قانون میبرن پرستوها میکشن لاله ها رو زمین میسازن 40 سال زندان که امروز بکنن تو رو اسیر به جون رژیم پلیسی ترس میزنه تیر تو جلو نری میبافن تنو به داره قطور توی دادگاه‌های حکومتی دو تا رفیقم موندن بگم با شرف کی هر کدوم قد توانش گذاشته وسط میز دومی ماه دوم با یه خروار پرونده گیر اولی با یه پلاکارد جلوی اسلحه تیر حالا تنها رفیق شکنجه شده زندانه 8 ماه تو انفرادی منتظر اعدامه درس آبیش منو تو آش و خونیه بقاره یادگاره 401 تو چشاش میامگاره ولی ادامه داره مسیر ادامه داره ما تاریک در این شبمونم ستاره داره انقدر میمونیم تو خفقان و میخونیم نور تا بشنون ما رو این صدای ما ادامه داره مسیر ادامه داره ما تاریک در این شبمونم ستاره داره انقدر میمونیم تو خفقان و میخونیم نور تا بشنون ما رو این صدای ما ادامه داره مسیر ادامه داره مسیر ادامه داره مسیر ادامه داره مسیر ادامه داره